Should Christians be persecuted?
Hey guys, welcome back to the James and Andrew Show. I'm James.
This is Andrew.
Today we're going to talk about Christianity, specifically the persecution part, the not fun part.
Yeah.
So I was searching on the internet earlier, and I found some startling numbers. And you know, for background, I thought it was important to share. Did you know Christians, and I'm going to quote one website here, but if anybody has any doubts, I encourage you to do some research, because just about every website I stumbled upon came to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Christians are the number one persecuted religion in the world.
Wow.
According to thepersecuted.org, Christians are, quote, always number one on the list, despite being among the top religions in the world. So why?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's because, we value the truth, but the fact is most people are not seeking after the truth. They value happiness more than the truth. So when the truth gets in the way of their, quote, happiness, well, the truth goes out the window. And so someone said that the gospel is bad news before it can be good news. And some people, they don't want to face the bad news that we're a sinner and that we need forgiveness, and that Jesus and a relationship with him is what affords you that forgiveness. People resist that. They don't like the truth because, kind of calls them out.
Yeah, and Christians have kind of been persecuted for forever, man. I mean, go back to biblical times. Obviously, Jesus was persecuted. That's probably the most prominent example. But another story in the Bible was persecution towards Peter and John. And so my pastor was talking about this week, and it inspired this episode, actually. But Peter and John, they were preaching the gospel constantly, and they were being told not to. And so instead of backing down, they continued to preach. In fact, they went to jail at one point, and God sent an angel to break them out of jail. And instead of doing what we would all do, which is run away, they went to the center of the town and continued to preach. So they weren't hiding.
Yeah.
They didn't run away, but instead they went to the center of the town and they continued to preach.
Pretty awesome, actually.
And so eventually they were persecuted and they were beaten for disobeying. And you would think this was a bad thing, because it would be a bad thing.
They got beat up.
Do you want to be persecuted?
Not at all.
I don't either. But they were happy about this. In Acts 5:41, it says the apostles left the Sanhedrin, which was the area they were in, rejoicing because they had been counted worthy of suffering disgrace for the name. So not just they were happy because they suffered, which, by the way, is an amazing thought by itself, but they weren't just rejoicing that they had suffered. They were rejoicing that they were worthy to suffer.
Yeah, that's an interesting
So this
idea.
this word kind of changes the whole idea. To be worthy of something,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big deal. And so when we're spreading the gospel, we have to remember that sometimes persecution will come.
Yeah. My pastor used to ask the question, and you've probably heard it before, like, if you were put on trial for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you?
Right.
And the fact is, some of us aren't persecuted at all simply because it's not evident to others that we are following Christ. They would never know that we're a Christian. And that's a problem.
Yeah, so really the basic idea is that Jesus got what we deserved so that we would get what he deserved. And if we're not telling people about that, if we're not telling people about that, I mean, let me ask you, if I gave you just the best gift you could ever imagine, I just bought you a $5 million house, Andrew.
Oh, right. Woo!
Would you keep that a secret, or would you be like, man, this guy's awesome, he just bought me a $5 million house?
He's awesome.
Well, Jesus did way more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, he lived a perfect life and then died for us.
Yeah.
And we don't want to tell anybody about that.
Yeah.
All we want to say is, hey, Jesus loves you, you should come to church. That's not the gospel. These are great things, but that's not the gospel.
That's only half the truth.
Right. So
Yeah.
generally, I would say if you are preaching the real gospel, you will have persecution, and this doesn't mean that you'll get beat up in the street. At least I hope not. But I mean, words will be said to you. You will be mocked. You will be called names. I mean, It's just a fact of life. People don't like Christians because Christians have truth, and sometimes truth is hard to come around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
But it's worth it.
I think that's a wrap.
Truth is worth it. It'll set you free.
It's been the James and Andrew Show.